Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we're going to be reading yet again another quickie article. Last time we read about the Sonichu crystals, and today we're going to be learning about the form that Sonichu will take when he mega evolves. That is Ultra Sonichu. Now this was not a new idea, and Chris has retconned this form several different times, so in this article you'll hear him transforming in many different ways. Let's begin with this quote. After absorbing the 7 Chaos Emeralds, Sonichu transforms into his super form, where he is invincible beyond compare. He can fly sky high and has the most powerful lightning attacks. That is from his Animal Crossing card, and we've already looked at some of these Animal Crossing cards before, but it mentions him transforming with the Chaos Emerald. So it starts off with the Chaos Emeralds. And this is what Ultra Sonichu looked like originally. He's just an orange Sonichu with his quills spiked up. What do you expect from Chris Chan? Ultra Sonichu is the final form of Sonichu that Chris has hyped up before the Sonichu comic even began. After years of promises, he finally appeared in Sonichu issue 10. Another of Chris's blatant ripoffs, he is a copy of Super Sonic. Super Sonic is a result of Sonic collecting the 7 Chaos Emeralds, which is inspired by the Super Saiyan transformation from Dragon Ball Z. It should also be noted that Ultra Sonichu is basically a recolor of Chris's very first failure, Bionic the Hedgehog. And that is kind of true because he is orange like Bionic. Powers. Sonichu 10 has shown that Ultra Sonichu has a plethora of superpowers. Besides being able to fly like Super Sonic, he also has messianic powers as well. He is shown using his presence to revive Zelina Rosachu from her eternal slumber, and apparently accidentally freed Clawdorf in the process. Now Clawdorf is a character that really doesn't matter. He is an evil wizard that used magic to put Zelina Rosachu, a character no one cared about, into a sleep coma. And apparently he can just cure magic. Ultra Sonichu can just do that. But Chris never did anything with Clawdorf, and I don't think he ever will do anything with Clawdorf, so who cares about Clawdorf? And he uses a power called Chaotic Remedy to cure Asperchu and his versions of Sonichu and friends from their maladies, such as personality. So far, there doesn't seem to be any specific time limit to Sonichu's ability to remain in this Ultra form, if he's using the Sonichu balls that is, unlike Sonic's super form, where his only weakness is the fact that his form eventually runs out. And in case you don't know anything about Super Sonic, you have to collect rings in order to keep the super form, and that's even consistent in the comics. In the comics, he also has to collect rings to go Super Sonic, and when you're out of rings, then you lose the transformation. After doing everything he needed to do, which included curing every single jerk-off he and his friends haven't managed to murder of their brainwashing, Sonichu just kinda stops being Ultra, and it's very anticlimactic. He just solves all the problems with Chris, and then he just goes back to being Sonichu. Evolution confusion. Ultra Sonichu evolves from Sonichu. Metonic also evolves from Sonichu. It has already been shown in the comics that Sonichu will eventually evolve into Metonic, so technically Sonichu will never be able to evolve into Ultra Sonichu, but he found a way. He seems to be a Mega Evolution now, and that is the next plot line in the Sonichu comics and continues off from the last article we read. Star sign confusion. After evolution, Ultra Sonichu's star sign changes from Pisces to Aries. Who fucking cares? How this is possible is still a mystery. A theory that Blake is the one who actually assumes this form, since he is an Aries, much like Ultra Sonichu, and is supposed to have all the same abilities that Sonichu possesses. I think is just a fucking typo on Chris's end. I think Chris just mixed everything up. That would also be an interesting plot twist, which Chris is not good at, to give Blake a role as the actual hero. However, considering Chris's writing abilities, this is probably just a coincidence, and I agree with that. Now let's take a look at some of these Ultra Sonichu cards. I'm only going to take a look at the front art. That is the original art for Ultra Sonichu. It looks just as crappy as any 90s fan art would. This is Ultra Sonichu's Pokemon card. He looks actually kind of demonic there. And this is what he looked like in the comic. Let me pull that up. This is him next to Colossal Christian, which is a whole nother bag of worms I'll talk about a different day. So that was Ultra Sonichu. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we're going to be reading a quickie article. Today's quickie article is on the Incredible Lioness. Now, we have been talking about the Sonicite crystals and the mega evolutions that the characters will get from that, and this is Rosachu's mega evolution. Now, just like with Ultra Sonichu, this is not an original form, and it actually has a prior history, so we're going to be looking at the history of this form. We start this article like we do most articles with a quote. When feeling the most enraged, most distraught, most stressed out beyond belief, Rosachu will recollect why she is feeling this way. Then she will transform into the Incredible Lioness. And that was a quote from Chris. And yes, the Incredible Lioness is naked, but luckily it is censored enough to where I think I can get away with it on YouTube. Hopefully I do. If her clothes are not nearby when she is fully recovered and rested, the poor woman will have to rush home as quickly as possible to clean up and put on clean clothes, straight out of an anime. Or find some kind of material to make a set of makeshift clothes for the trek back home. It's almost like that form is incredibly sexist, and the fact that it was made for empowering her is a joke. The Incredible Lioness was a horrifying form that Rosachu was given in Sonichu 8, originally to face rape the comic incarnation of Jason Kindercow. Little information is given in the comic itself, but Chris gives further details on the Wikipedia. Seemingly similar to Ultra Sonichu, rather than gaining power from exposure to the chaotic crystals, Rosachu simply gains tremendous strength through stress and rage. Closer to the Incredible Hulk, I guess that's why he called her the Incredible Lioness, than anything else. However, Chris most likely meant to rip off Sonic's Werehog transformation, so it's kind of like a mixture of the two, Werehog and Incredible Hulk. It explains why she grows more hair. From Sonic Unleashed, and the time frame makes sense too. Chris implies that because Rosachu is a woman, she can't control herself. Wow, that's sexist. When she gets into rage. And the only way to calm her down is to tell her that she's pretty, or whatever Chris means by make amends with deepest apologies, heavy flattery, and promising to do as she wishes. Oh god, that is so beyond sexist, and that makes Sonichu such a fucking cuck. However, in both appearances in the comic, she calms down without any intervention, which is good because Sonichu doesn't need help looking pathetic. The transformation process also completely destroys her clothes. Presumably, she has to have the foresight to know that she is about to go into a blind, unstoppable rage and remove all of her clothing, or just put on some makeshift clothes later. How and why her clothes are destroyed isn't clear. It's because Chris is being sexist again. And the only time Rosachu is transformed this far, she removed her clothing herself. But no part of the transformation involves anything that would damage the clothing. She does not grow in size or change shape. She does kind of grow in size. She gets a little bit taller and her back becomes a little bit more hunched over. And she gets a more broader chest too. She does change a little bit. This author obviously didn't pay too much attention. Why clothes are such a concern for her in the first place is mystifying, considering most of the Sonichus and Rosachus don't wear any clothing at all, like Angelica, so that's actually a good point. Chris also clarifies that only the true and original Rosachu can transform into this form. So that means only Rosachu can go into a hate rage and destroy people. One could argue that this is due to Rosachu's parentage. According to Chris, she was sired by a Luxray, a lion-esque Pokemon. Oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe that is why she can do that. Since this makes sense, it is highly unlikely that it was it is highly unlikely that it was intended by him. So yeah, that does make a little bit of sense, and I'm shocked that the coincidence just matched up like that. Unamusingly, Chris appears to have traced the Incredible Lioness's pose in her debut appearance from a piece of artwork of the heroic Godzilla series monster, King Caesar. I am not shocked. Chris always has to plagiarize everything. And people say Chris isn't tracing now. He is obviously tracing. God, and apparently that's what she is traced from, so she's kind of like a Godzilla creature too? God. Considering Chris's relatively limited interest, it is more than likely that he simply found the image somewhere on the internet and isn't familiar with the source material at all. As you may have guessed, Chris created the Incredible Lioness in an attempt to show his support for women's rights. Or just wanted a character to beat the crap out of a troll and then say she supported women's rights. Sonichu 8. In the climax of episode 17, Rage Against the Garbage, Rosachu and Sonichu travel to the 66+6 floor of the 4centgarbage.com to confront Jason Kindercow about the ED page. Their main concern is the troll fan art of Rosachu with a duck, which is Chris terms for dick, which Sonichu innocently interprets as a simple misunderstanding. Jason outright refuses to take down the ED page and brutally throws Sonichu to the floor. Rosachu reacts nonchalantly to this and doesn't transform until, as the two leave, Jason has the audacity to throw a pickle at her. It strikes her on the back of the head. She picks it up and crushes it in her fist with rage. As her mind fills with thoughts of violence and bizarrely ominous feminist diatribes glorifying the creative power of the ovary in spite of this supposed respect for the female being. Rosachu goes on to strip completely naked, exposing her breasts and vagina, in what Chris maintains is a comic intended for children. Well, they already had a sex scene at the beginning of the comic, so you can't say it's for children anymore. This is just a cherry on top. At this point, she becomes the Incredible Lioness. The Lioness leaps at Jason with murder in her eyes, in what may be the most hideously explicit violence in Sonichu up to that point. She wraps her legs around his head so that her vagina is pressed against his face, a move which is probably copied from Keko Common, and I don't know that thing, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Then she tears a rip across his scalp and bites down. Wow, that makes her fucking ravenous. Like, why would you do that? Is she gonna eat him? Like, why would she do that? I can't wait to review that comic. In moments, Jason is near death, although dark forces keep him alive. That's an actual quote from the comic. Why this attack intended to involve Rosachu shoving her vagina into Jason's face is unclear. Rosachu then reverts back to her standard form, and I think the reason why she shoves his crotch in his face is to literally show him that she is a woman, because he keeps depicting her with a dick. I think that's what Chris was intending to do there. Close to fainting from her outrageous exertion. Sonichu 11. After the moon releases an energy wave, Rosachu transforms into the Incredible Lioness in her backyard after picking up a Sonicite stone. For an unexplained reason, she isn't enraged when she transforms, probably because it's Crystal this time transforming her. Also, she's nude in front of her 3 children, which is very good, Chris. That's not creepy at all. Rosachu is surprised by this and rushes inside to get a new pair of clothes, which Chris probably thinks is hilarious because he is sexist like that. Hello everybody, Dylan here. Now today we are going to be doing yet again another quickie reading. Today's quickie reading is going to be on Metonic. Now, for those of you guys who didn't watch the last video on Rosachu, Rosachu also had an evolutionary form named Vampirosa. This is just like that. It was made as a Animal Crossing thing, and apparently this is supposed to be Sonichu 25 years in the future. Now, Metonic. Metonic evolves from Sonichu by being traded while holding a metal coat. His armor adds weight, so he can't do a spin dash, but his speed stays the same, and his spikes are diamond sharp. Now that doesn't make any fucking sense because Unless Chris Chan gives up ownership of Sonichu, he'll never be able to achieve this form because he has to be traded. So Chris Chan would have to trade Sonichu to someone within the next 25 years in order for him to evolve. Metonic is the final evolution of Sonichu from the future, seen in the classic Sonichu strips. According to an Animal Crossing card in Chris Chan's Scrapbook of Fail, Sonichu evolves into Metonic after being traded while holding a metal coat. Later, Chris Chan went on to clarify that this evolution is specific to Sonichu, the first yellow recolor, so only the original Sonichu. And the rest of his species cannot evolve into this form, because I guess that's just how evolution works now, according to Chris Chan. Metonic is an electric steel type Pokemon. Unlike Ultra Sonichu, Metonic appears to be a permanent evolution. Metonic is not much different than regular Sonichu in appearance. He still has the same body shape and particular colors, at least from what we can see, but now he sports a heavy suit of armor and a sword, where the former only protects certain parts of his body. The armor covers his chest and the boots protect his feet, and he has a helmet which protects the sides of his head. But his massive eyes and the rest of his face and his lower stomach, neck, and legs, except the knee pads, tail, forearms, and crotch, are all exposed, meaning anyone could attack him at any time in those areas and he'd be fucked. One is only left to wonder why Sonichu even bothers with the armor, considering that the armor is actually so heavy that it prevents him from using his spin dash attack that his inspiration Sonic the Hedgehog has become famous for. I think it's because Chris Chan's trying to make him different, but it just doesn't seem to make any fucking sense for him to have this armor. Is the armor part of his skin? Is it part of his, body now? Is this just how he is now? Can he never take the armor off? If he takes the armor off, is he de-evolving? There's so many questions that get brought up due to this evolutionary form. It's so fucking ridiculous. Though it somehow does not affect his speed. Of course, all of this is really just down to a change of wardrobe. Really, the only difference between Metonic and Sonichu wearing armor is that Metonic has spiked ears. Metonic has yet to appear in the main episodes of the Sonichu comics, restricted to a cameo appearance in the collection of cards that Chris Chan has on his wall of originals. But as mentioned above, he did make a single appearance in the classic Sonichu strips from Sonichu Zero in a 25 years later segment, wherein he's shown to chop logs and shamelessly recycle jokes from XL Saga. The future looks bleak. In Chris Chan plus Sarah's life shares, adults are portrayed as Metonic and Vampirosas for absolutely no reason. It could be that much like Sonny and Rosie are generally used by Chris to symbolize people who are younger than he is at the time. Metonic and by extension Vampirosa are his perception of his elders. And now we're going to take a look at some of the artwork that Chris Chan has made for Metonic. We have his Animal Crossing card, and we see that the other one is just like the Roschu one where it only mentions that he's a Pisces, and that's not really too fucking useful information. We see a Pokemon card with extremely blurry artwork, and I think he put in tinfoil to make it shine, and I can't read any of this. Here's another card with a different pose, the same one from the fucking Animal Crossing card. Here is a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Chris Chan got really fucking lazy because he just recycled this same drawing over and over and over again. He is actually 6 stars. That's 1 more star than Vampirosa was, and he's actually physically stronger. So yeah, that's pretty sad. He's just overall better than Roschu yet again. We see Metonic's sword, which increases his power by 1,000 attack points, and then we see his boots, which increase his defense by 500 points, so he can get even beefier. Fuck bouncing, who fucking cares? It's Sonichu. Hey everybody, Dylan here, and today we are going to be doing yet again another quickie reading. Today's quickie reading is going to continue the trend that I've been doing of covering characters. Today's character is the evolutionary form of Roschu, otherwise known as Vampirosa. Now, for those of you guys who have a little bit of brain cells left in your noggin, you would be able to tell that all Chris Chan did to come up with this name was take the beginning of Vampire, take the beginning of Roschu, mix them together, and boom, Vampirosa. Vampirosa evolves from Roschu with a moonstone. Her bite can suck the life out of her enemies because Roschu's apparently a murderer now. Her cape gives her the ability to fly. That is from the Vampirosa Animal Crossing card that Chris Chan made. So yeah, this is the actual canon evolution for Roschu. I don't know if this will ever happen in the comics, but apparently it is supposed to happen at one point in her lifetime. Vampirosa is an evolved form of Roschu. She reaches this final form by leveling up at midnight between 12 and 12:05. Though Chris has also given an extended account of this method, which Roschu also needs high friendship levels. Well, everyone fucking loves her because she's one of the main characters, so that won't be a problem. And the time frame is increased to the midnight hour rather than 12 to 12:05. And entirely contradictory to the earlier account that Vampirosa simply evolves using a moonstone. So it seems like Chris is trying to have his cake and eat it too. He's trying to mix Animal Crossing continuity with the continuity of Pokemon, and Sonichu is already a mixture of Pokemon and Sonic, so he's trying to mix too many things at once, and now it's starting to contradict itself. She either evolves with the Moonstone, like in Pokemon, how certain Pokemon can evolve with Moonstones, or she evolves in some weird Animal Crossing way. Make up your mind, Chris. Unlike the Incredible Lioness, this appears to be a permanent evolution. There is no actual evolutionary change other than gaining fangs. Probably as a reference to Chris Chan wanting fangs at one point that protrude from her mouth. And a cape that somehow gives her the ability to fly. I don't understand that either. In every depiction, her eyes are half lid, but this is presumably just a facial expression. Being a vampire, she can suck the life out of enemies. The reason why Roschu's final evolution is a blood-sucking creature of darkness is not something Chris feels the need to explain. Chris confirmed in a presentation that Vampirosa is indeed a Dark Electric, a unique type that has yet to appear in any Pokemon game. It's also the exact same type that Black Sonichu is apparently, if you've seen our last Sonic Insanity video on him. Chris has confirmed that, like her male counterpart, only the original Roschu may evolve into Vampirosa, making this evolution unique to just her, unlike in Pokemon. In the classic Sonichu strips, a 25-year later segment shows her to have done just that, with Sonichu having evolved into Metonic. Now let's look at some of these original art pieces Chris made for Vampirosa. This is the Animal Crossing card right here. You can see how it's poorly cropped out because Chris Chan can't do art properly. You can actually see some of the pixels left over in the background. I don't think we're going to need to see the back because it's not going to give us any information. I guess we know she's a Pisces now, so have fun with that information. Yeah, it's what the quickie already told us, but let's take a look at this Yu-Gi-Oh card. Hell yeah. Vampirosa, 5-star creature. And it says Vampirosa by... Oh, okay, we already got that. Oh, that sucks. There's no information here. Let's see what the cape says. Vampirosa's cape. Spell card. Only Vampirosa can be equipped with this card. The monster equipped with this card increases its defense points by 1,000. Why would it increase her defense points? Oh, well, I guess that's not going to be explained. And then we got a Vampirosa Pokemon card. Anything unique here? Mean look and bite. Okay, so that's all there is on Vampirosa. Vampirosa is the evolutionary form of Roschu. It hasn't happened yet, but at some point within a 20-year time skip, Roschu is going to transform into a vampire. Unless Chris Chan retcons the continuity like he's known to doing. A few years has already passed in the Sonichu comics, seeing how their kids have aged and characters have aged along with time. So maybe one day we'll actually see Roschu take this form. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we are doing a quickie discussion. Today's quickie discussion is going to be going over Sonichu and Roschu's Love Shack. So let's get straight into reading this. You are about to enter new territory that may open new creative doors within your mind. Are you 18 years of age or older? Now that's a very strange way of putting that, but that's a great way to describe the Sonic fandom as a whole. And as you can see, instead of Chris getting a yes and a no, he just edited the yes to be a no. And he didn't even try to match up the shading. He didn't even try to color the whole button red. You can see where he put in the no. Like, it's so terrible. His photoshopping skills are atrocious here. Sonichu and Rosachu's Love Shack is the Rule 34 section of Chris's Sonichu site, which apparently he put it on the Sonichu site itself. Terrible idea. On February 12, 2009, Chris most likely took the name from 1999 South Park themed video game Chef's Love Shack. You know what? You're probably right on that one, because Chris was obsessed with South Park. While many would think that this is simply a ham-fisted attempt to continue his protest against ED, he's actually just going to get us to open new creative doors, autistically and spiritually. Who knew terribly drawn chinas colored in with magic markers could be so illuminating? And you can see up here that is a really old drawing of Rosachu, one of the very first drawings of Rosachu, and just enjoy the terrible limbs, like the fact that her arms come out of her chest. They look like they're coming out of her tits. You can see her legs look like she's been starving for years on end. Her torso makes no fucking sense. It's just bad artwork altogether, and it's written in poorly translated Spanish. Several people noticed before the site's sudden death for girls section, essentially either requesting or alleging solo or homoerotic Sonichu artwork. The artwork he did manage to post was most likely stuff he already uploaded to ED, as well as some new smut for the pairings of Sonichu 9. While Chris has been drawing erotic fantasy artwork, chances are the Love Shack is gone for good, which it is, because Chris doesn't even really run a website anymore, despite numerous fan requests for it to return, which I doubt it ever will. Creating a page not intimately related to him would cause too much stress. Development. In a post on the Sonichu Girls forum from January 2009, Chris posted, "If you all recall, I had mentioned the idea of creating a one-time magazine of pictures of Rosachu's, minus the penis since she's underage, being in sexy underwear and or naked," and I think he wanted to call it Pokey Boy or something. That did make it into the comic itself. It's really weird. As a protest of mine against ED jerks who drew dicks on my female characters and women in general. The heinous, slanderous act still infuriates me, but I will withhold my rage. A Sonichu girl asked me when I was going to draw a comic of Rosachu's stripping in protest, so I felt I should put it into a popular vote. Would you like to see multiple pages of Rosachu's being sexy in underwear or naked? That's a lot of people on the internet. In protest against those jerks in the Playboy parodied magazine? Or do you feel that I would be crossing a line by doing so? You should know that you would be crossing a line by doing so. If the popular vote is good, I will draw the magazine either before or after drawing and coloring my number 9 comic book, depending on how I feel. I'll make my decision based on the popular responses after a week to a month's time, which I wish Chris would be that responsive now when it comes to updating its comic book. Thank you all again for understanding my true meaning behind the stripping protest. Love and peace, and no fucking lightning bolts or whatever. I miss old Chris. All the true and loyal Sonichu gal fans supported Chris's ideas. Alongside supporting from fans in Mumble, Chris made the site. The Love Shack went online on February 12th, becoming part of Sonichu and Rosachu.com, the third domain that hosted Sonichu's site, which he had acquired and set up earlier that month. And all these sites were absolute fucking garbage, and they're all gone now. On the age check of the site, he says that the images may open new creative doors within your mind. This means Chris actually believes that looking at terribly drawn pictures of nude Sonic recolors will make you more creative and spiritual person. I think it'll do the exact opposite in my opinion. Chris kept the sub-site very up to date, adding adult versions of his comics all the way up to Sonichu 9. For a time, the Love Shack was updated almost as often as the Sonichu comics themselves. Although Chris left out some well-known material from the collection, such as the Giant Penis comic, which is an unreleased comic that the trolls got their hands on anyway. When Chris relaunched his site in April as Quickville.com, he broke several links to the Love Shack, but the gallery was still available via the old domain name. After the site was repeatedly repeatedly hacked in May, Chris eventually gave up and allowed it to lie follow. At present, Wikipedia doesn't have any section like the Love Shack and hosts somewhat less explicit versions of the comic like Sonichu 8. As of April 2010, Chris has claimed on his blog that he would never allow adult images on his site, which he doesn't have anymore, and the Rule 34 he has created was leaked. Since Chris has horrifying porn available himself, and at one point had an entire page dedicated to quick rock 4way.jpg, which I can't open that here. If you want to see that, open it up yourself. This is a lie on both accounts. And there is a bunch of images from that, and I can't open any of them because I will most likely get in trouble. So I can't show you any of those. No way. If you want to see that, go check out the article yourself. I can't even censor them because it would just be ridiculous, and I would probably still get in trouble for that. And that was Sonichu and Rosachu's Love Shack. It was Chris's page on his website where he put a bunch of smut involving his characters. Hopefully this video has changed your mind and opened up creative doors that you will be able to find horrible Sonic recolors behind.
Once again, all Sonichu material is copyright March 17, 2000 by me, Christian Weston Chandler. Any names or persons illustrated in any of the Sonichu comic books except that myself that may seem similar to anybody in real life or fiction are purely coincidental or otherwise sporadic. And some of the characters in this book have been originally made by Megan Schroeder. Okay? Alright, so anyway, here is the cover. Yay! It's Patty-chan. I miss you, Patty. You're such a good dog. I love you. You good girl. Okay.
Hey guys, Dylan here with St. Patrick's Day just going by a bit ago. I thought it would be a good time to cover Patty-chan. Now, I'm not covering Patty the dog because I've already done that. If you want to watch that video, go to the Chris Chan Pets video. Instead, I am covering the Sonichu character, Patty-chan. Patty-chan is a fictional character based off of Chris's beloved dog Patty, who died in 2006. The lead story of Sonichu issue 6 was a tribute to Patty. Allowed no rest in death, the poor creature has been reborn as an anthropomorphic dog woman, and now wanders the city of Quickville. Now, if you really think about it, that's kind of fucked up. When someone dies in the real world, they get reborn in Quickville. Almost like Quickville is like some pseudo heaven or like some purgatory, which is very weird. It's weird to think that when you die you might just end up in a world where an autistic tranny is like the ruler of everything. Terrible existence, but thank God it's not real. The development of this character is indicative of Chris's immature reaction to death. Now, that is a thing that actually is common with autistic people, is that they don't handle change well, especially death. So it's totally understandable that Chris would react in this way. This isn't a healthy way to deal with the loss of Patty, and as we can see with later what he did to his father, it's not a healthy way of dealing with anything, to just pretend they exist in another dimension. Fictional character biography. A Beagle Spitz mix, Patty was born on St. Patrick's Day in 1988 and was Chris's faithful dog for the next 18 years. By June 2006, Patty was not as energetic as she once had been, and her ass itched. One night while howling at the fucking moon, Patty was distracted by a bright star and considered her desire to walk upright and express to Chris in human language her appreciation for his companionship. Following this, Patty ate grass in the yard, unwittingly catching a 4-leaf clover in her mouth, and went to sleep. I'm assuming the grass was poisonous and this was an inside job. The following day, when Chris awoke Patty, she discovered that her wish had been granted, and she had been transformed and rejuvenated, kind of like making a wish on the Dragon Balls. Vital humanoid creature. Later that day, Patty expressed a desire to leave her home, to roam freely in another giant cage that Chris Chan controls. Very, very fitting and ironic. Taking into account Patty's somewhat alien nature, Chris decided to take her to Quickville via the magic portal in his bedroom that he still hasn't really explained. Sometimes a DS creates it, it, sometimes he can just make it out of nowhere, where she would be appreciated as an ordinary citizen. After giving Patty a tour of his mayoral office, introducing her to Allison Amber, which that is one of the most pointless characters ever. She doesn't do shit. She's literally just Chris's assistant. That's it. She is pointless. She has no depth to her, so fitting that she would be the one to introduce Patty around to Quickville. Chris gave her a cell phone and a credit card that provided her needs. Now, that credit card gets her free food and stuff from anywhere in Quickville. So it's less like a credit card and a give me shit because I know Chris Chan card, which if that was the case in real life, I would definitely be friends with Chris Chan if I got a magical card that let me buy whatever the fuck I wanted to, because fuck you. Sometimes later, Patty would meet the people of Quickville, most notably Rose Chu, and join the ranks of Sonichu's heroic defenders, joining Darkbind Sonichu, Magaji, and Sailor Megtoon in reinforcing Christian and the chaotic convo against Mary Lee Walsh. Following this battle, the assembled heroes convened at Chris's office, where Patty argued that Chris is sweet at heart and isn't jealous of anything because fuck you. Punchy challenged the objectivity of Patty's opinion on the grounds that Chris's dog is predisposed to see him as the best, which is a good point. During the quest to rescue Crystal by obtaining the 7 Sonichu balls, later the Sonichu Crystals, very redundant naming, Patty observed that they had obtained 4 of the balls, while 2 others were trapped in Chris in the time void. And I'll get to that eventually in the Sonichu comics, and wished for his safe return. And that was to Chris directly, because no one else was fucking reading the comic at that point. Later, she also participated in Sonichu 10 Executions, being one of those who killed Alec, which means that she is a monster like everyone else who went on that mock execution that got later retconned out because Christian felt ashamed about it. Patty would appear in Sonichu 12 attending the SLGBTQ festival, greeting Chris, who is now a tomgirl. Later on, she assisted Sonichu in battling the jerk-offs invading Quickville. And yes, SLGBTQ is a thing in Chris's world. Ace of Clubs. As seen in the scrapbook of Fail near the Megan Shrine, there is a hand-drawn sketch of what appears to be Patty Chan, labeled as Ace of Clubs. It reads, when Patty comes into contact with anything Irish or eats clover, she morphs into the Ace of Clubs. So this is a cute little idea that Megan thought up, that Patty would have like a magical girl transformation, but I assume that Megan intended it to be like when she was alive. So Chris took Megan's idea and then applied it to Patty coming back from the dead. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Chris stole Megan's character design and idea altogether, adding to the cast of stolen characters. And yes, this is another character that Chris Chan stole from Megan, which includes Magaji, and he stole this other character later on, which we are going to cover, Jigglyami. Jigglyami he didn't take from Megan, he took from a different person who he considers to be a troll. And we'll cover her eventually, but Chris is known for stealing characters. In a short story, Chris refers to Patty as Ace of Clovers because he is apparently too stupid to realize that the clubs in pack of cards already look like clovers. Redundancy is lost on him, which this was a play on. Chris had an odd tendency to rename things he steals from his friends, fans, and loved ones, which he thinks that's making it his, but it's still theft. Whether this is because he wants to maintain some degree of originality, or just honestly thinks that his minor change actually improves the character, isn't certain. I'm going with the other option, that he does it to just appear to be more original. And I'm gonna show you some pictures of Patty. Let me get these up. This is Megan's original Patty, Ace of Clubs. We see her little backstory and we see her drawn as a dog. And now let me show you Chris's original Patty. Strange that she's striking the exact same pose almost, but you can tell this isn't traced by how shitty Chris is at drawing. I wouldn't say it's traced, I'd just say it's heavily influenced. And this is Mod Nation Racing Patty. And if you want to know more about Mod Nation Racers, I covered that a while ago. Hopefully you guys learned something new today, like that Patty Chan is actually stolen from Megan, yet again adding to more characters Chris Chan has stolen and put in the Sonichu.
Take care, Patty Chan. I'll always love you, my sweet puppy friend. And I love you, Chris. And that was a sweet episode dedicated to my real-life dog, Patty. She was born on March 17, 1998, died on June 27, 2006. She was one sweet, pretty, and lucky dog. My favorite photograph. Took a her and me together. Okay, stay tuned for the next episode.
Hey guys, Dylan here. Today we are doing a quickie discussion. Today's quickie discussion is one I've wanted to do for a while. That is Magaji La Skunk. And now, to give you a little history on everything, I'm going to read two different quotes. One is from Megan and one is from Chris Chan. And you can see just what type of person Chris Chan is. This one is from Megan. Whether or not you've noticed, none of my female characters have breasts. I just don't believe in giving animals that kind of human quality. That is Megan 2007. Now, this one is from Chris Chan 2009. She does have breasts. Megan Schroeder drew her that way. So Chris wanted to give a character boobs, and despite the creator saying don't give them boobs, he did anyway and then credited her for the idea. And that's what Chris does when you introduce an idea to him. He steals it, and then he makes it into whatever he wants it to be. We see that it says her homeland is Paradise Island, gender female, species humanoid skunk, creator Megan. Magaji La Skunk, pronounced Miagaji, I'm gonna say that I am saying that right, is one of Megan Schroeder's furry-inspired characters who appeared alongside Megan Schroeder as her sailor fighter partner, and later begins dating Bionic the Hedgehog. She outlived her creator's presence in the comic, similar to Jigglyami, which is another character that Chris Chan stole. Except Megan was probably not a troll. I don't think Megan was a troll. A far greater troll than Blanca. Okay, so I guess they're conflicted on what they would call Megan. Creation. Magaji was originally called Spunky Skunk. The reason why Chris changed her name is unclear, although it is most likely an obsession over someone with a similar name. Yeah, he changed it to Magaji because Megan. She also did not have breasts in her original drawing, or her first appearances in the comic, because Chris was actually trying to respect Megan, but I think he always intended to give her breasts. We'll figure out why later, but I think he always planned it. But Chris added them later on for unknown reasons. Giving her name, color scheme, and species, she likely constitutes a homage to plagiarism of Tiny Toons adventure character Fifi LaFume. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Okay, so I guess that is true. I guess that is true. She is really similar to the character Fifi. I never even noticed that. She is a purple skunk and she's female. So I guess they're right on that one. She may also be based on the Sonic character Fang the Sniper, Knack the Weasel. I don't know about that. Given her color scheme and design, I wouldn't go that far. The Archie comics did have a skunk character, Jeffrey St. John, but Magaji has nothing in common with him, besides they're both skunks. Way to be skunksist. Funnily enough, her colors are also the same as those used to symbolize bisexual pride. Hilarious because it's a Megan Schroeder character. Magaji used to have somewhat different personality from the other female characters. She seemed to be tomboyish type, and Chris described her as being like an army soldier in Sonichu 6, which would have been really interesting, and it would have been really cool to see Chris Chan actually write a tomboy character instead of just calling things tomboy that isn't. She calls Chris out on his shit, and she chews him out for ogling over Megan when he should be saving the day, which was actually really interesting, and I really liked that personality, but it doesn't last long at all. It was at least different from the typical Rosachu who liked shopping. However, in Sonichu number 9, she gets watered down just like the rest of them because Chris can't consistently write complex characters. Girly and with no personality. And later on in the comic, she is further reduced to just being Bionic's personal cheerleader. Literally his cheerleader. You can see that shot right there. She literally becomes a cheerleader. That's not even like a figure of speech. They're being literal. Fictional biography. Origins. When Megan drew the characters, she wrote the words Parody Island next to it. This appears to refer to a place where she lives, which was renamed by Chris to Paradise Island, which is a play on words for Parody Island and Paradise Island, which ruins the joke, Chris. Thank you. Along with 3 other unnamed individuals, she serves as the protector of the island. We never get this in the fucking comic. She described by Chris as being physically strong. Okay, I don't believe him. Her scent attack is lesser power, but is still very potent. I've never seen her use a stink attack. It should be noted that said scent attack was never seen in the comic itself. Yeah, I thought so. I never seen it done. Chris, do that in the new comics if you really want that to pay off. According to her Wikipedia page, she came from a mysterious land far, far away with her partner, Megan Schroeder. However, it should be noted that her Wikipedia biography was not authored by Chris. Very strange. And these are a summary of all the things she did in the comics. So if you haven't read the comics yet, spoiler. Sonichu 5. Magaji and Sailor Megtoon come to rescue of Chris Chan and the chaotic combo when threatened by Wes Lee. Sonichu 6. Bionic the Hedgehog asks Christian to create a girlfriend for him, leading to Quick to suggest he should date one of Megan's characters, despite Megan only having one character in the fucking comic. Actually, maybe two, but that's a different story. Sonichu 7. Bionic the Hedgehog gushes about his new girlfriend, Magaji, and taunts Chris for still being a virgin, because Chris sucks even in his own comic. Sonichu 8. Magaji shows up at spring break to lounge around in a bikini because sexism. Sonichu 9. Magaji cheers her boyfriend's triumphant victory over Reldnock, which that was the death nail of her character. Sonichu 12. Magaji appears at the SLGBTQ Pride Festival with her boyfriend Bionic. I didn't even know she was in that comic. That shows how important she is. Turning on her sailor fighter partner. In a series of increasingly vitriolic Facebook posts directed at Megan, Chris claims to have talked directly with Magaji, who has particularly nasty things to say about her original creator. Whilst Chris is known to believe that Sonichu and other comic characters are real to an extent, it is still somewhat unsettling to see it weaponized to justify his threats and slander. Now, this is something you need to know with Chris. Like, he is very inconsistent when it comes to this shit. Like, the characters are supposed to exist, but their existence only ever benefits him. So despite Magaji being friends with Megan for years and being her partner and her child, she is going to turn to defend Chris, because that's what Chris wants to happen. By the way, I have checked up with Magaji the skunk. She feels deep distrust in you. We mutually agree that you should have never been born. Chris Chan telling someone to go die, even if it meant she would never exist. Chris in an open letter to Megan on Facebook. So Chris took this woman's creation, changed it into something she didn't want it to be, and then fucking had it say, "I wish you would die," to its own creator. And Chris complains about being trolled on the internet. Now, this is the original Spunky Skunk, the canon version of Magaji the Skunk. You see the Parody Island logo right there. And I'm going to show you a comparison between the two. This is the original. This is Chris's version. This is the original. This is Chris's version. And this is drawn before she appeared in the comics. So it kind of shows you that Chris always planned to add something to her. And this is Magaji and Sonichu gathering the Sonichu balls. It never happened in the comic, by the way. She hardly even played a role in that plot. And this is Chris Chan's Magaji medallion, and dear God, it looks hideous. It's got paint splattered all about it. It's got random glue strung about it. It's hideous. Its ear looks like it's deformed. This is just the worst medallion I've seen thus far from Chris. And that was Magaji the Skunk. A very sad story. And at the end of the day, I would say this is the one thing you need to know when interacting with Chris Chan. If you introduce him to a character, he will steal it. He will steal it and claim it as his own, and then he will do everything to separate you from its creation. So it's just best to keep your characters away from him.
I'll have a feeling that, I'll be able to work better once in real life I actually do find my woman to become my sweetheart. But, it's nice to know that I actually do have a good gal pal that I've made over the internet recently, whose inspired character, she was inspired by me. Her inspired character, I've given my full approval of and introduced in the comic I just uploaded to what is now can also be considered to be Sonichu.net. Nothing but net. Screw your com, I got the net. Yeah. Her name is, her online name is Kawaii Kitsune. And she herself is the original character of the new bubblegum pop star. Jiggly yummy! Jiggly yummy! Yeah.
Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we are doing another Quickie discussion. Today's Quickie discussion carries on the trend that we have been doing for the last couple episodes, that being characters that Chris Chan has stolen. Today's character is Jigglyami. We start this off with a quote from Jigglyami's totally not plagiarized song, and the quote is, Baka Dana Watashi, it is the War of Love, and that is her real song, War of Love. After his concert, we will be superstars. We can have any man we want. Another quote from Jigglyami. Jigglyami is Blanca Weiss's original character that Chris claimed after she broke up with him. Note the irony and hypocrisy in this action, considering that he can steal other people's characters willingly, but when it comes to his characters being stolen, he becomes very upset. Also, in episode 18, it is hinted that she was Sonichu's girlfriend while he was still a regular Pikachu, meaning that he's kind of a cheating asshole. Fortunately, we were spared any flashbacks of the conception of an Igglybuff, and the funny thing is, they never mentioned breaking up, so Sonichu cheated on her. Her first appearance in the comics was during the K-Quick segment of Sonichu 7, where she was interviewed by my favorite character, DJ Jamsta Sonichu, and Loliza Rosechu, followed by a boring sexist talk and a lame, equally sexist joke about Jigglyami snowballs, which is a joke that flies over a lot of people's head. Her next and last appearance was in episode 18 during the Spring Break Escapades, which is an infamous issue. She is first seen with Blanca, who is presumably her manager or plays guitar, and by that they mean rock star, guitar hero, sing star, whatever, or something. The two have an insane conversation about energizing the crowd and how after the concert they will be famous enough to where they can get any man they wanted to, and this is what Chris believed he could do. If he could go play Guitar Hero live, he could get anyone he wanted to because he thinks Guitar Hero is a real instrument. The conversation ends with Blanca alluding to her heart's desire being trapped in another dimension, and of course that is Chris Chan. Later on, she finds the comatose Blake after his encounter with Sylvana, which she raped him and then her vagina drugged him so he passed out. And then Magichan and Jigglyami inform Bubbles that Sylvana is posing as Blake. Later on, Jigglyami sings her not plagiarized song, War of Love, to the cheers of the audience, but before the song, she states that she was missing her old Pikachu boyfriend, which means that Sonichu is a cheating asshole. Ever since Chris' breakup with Blanca, Jigglyami has inexplicably vanished like all the other characters he steals, never to appear in the comic again. In the Blanca emails, she is given a somewhat bullshit history about wishing on a star and somehow getting turned into an anthropomorphic abomination seen in the comic. But Chris never mentioned this because he'll steal your shit and then rewrite it. Within the comic, Jigglyami just shows up with no explanation as to how or why a humanoid Jigglypuff exists, which at that point Chris can just do anything. Creation. If Jigglyami seems like a stereotypical Japanese idol singer, there's a good reason for that. The original illustration by Blanca has a striking resemblance to both a screen cap and illustration of Ranka Lee, a character from the anime Macross Frontier, which I don't care if I say any of that wrong, which means that Chris further degraded the equality of the original. The characters are both pop stars and share many other attributes, such as their up-and-coming status and insane bubbly songs. To be fair to our autistic hero, mecha anime is probably not kawaii enough for his taste, so he probably never has heard of the series. So how would he know that she was tracing a trace? Still, damn. There's a small bit of irony, though, in that Macross Frontier's main character is a former kabukai actor who played female roles, much like men playing women's roles in old-school Shakespeare productions. To make matters even funnier, the anime also had a comic relief, flamboyantly gay character. Maybe it's for the best that Chris doesn't know about this. The lyrics of the song that Jigglyami were singing were ripped from and mercilessly butchered from a video by Supercell using Japanese Vocaloid character Hatsune Miku. And I'm sorry for butchering any Japanese words in this video. I'm American and dumb. If this whole situation sounds familiar, well, it is. Smonla was originally created by another fan that was in a turn a parody of an Animu character like Jigglyami, and we will cover that eventually. Jigglyami is a knockoff of the following: Amy Rose, Jigglypuff, Ronka Lee, and possibly Ami from Hi Hi Puffy Ami Yumi. And that is Blanca's second drawing of Jigglyami. That is the Jigglyami medallion. That's the character that was ripped off. That's Blanca's first drawing. And that's Chris's version. And hopefully you guys learned something new about Jigglyami. There isn't a deep backstory to this. There isn't a lot to talk about, but there never really is with these characters. These are characters that Chris didn't come up with. He just stole them from other people. So remember, if you hear Chris crying about people stealing his characters or parodying his characters, he doesn't actually care. He'll steal stuff. He'll parody stuff. He'll do whatever he wants to. He just wants you to feel bad for him.
An official update. You know who I am, but right now at the moment I'm upset and sad. The featured friend that I have recently given a guest spot in the seventh comic book. Turns out that woman was a fake troll, and well, he tricked me into revealing some adult type stuff. I was tricked. I was betrayed. So YouTube member Kawaii Kitsune, YouTube people destroyed that account because that person is not who he claims to be. Sorry, Bob. You gave me a bad lead, but hey, it's not your fault. Also, at this point, I will claim Jigglyami as my own from this point on. And Blanca character that I associate with her in the drawing, well, she'll be like a character in a city, but she's not going to be an active character. But Jigglyami, I'll be claiming her as my own from this point on. Good day.
Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we are doing another quickie discussion. Today's quickie discussion is on the Eschew Ball. An Eschew Ball is a very special type of Pokeball used to capture and storage of electric hedgehog type Pokemon. They receive very little mention in canon, as few of the Sonichus and Rosachus are ever stored in balls. The best terminology to use, I'm sure Chris Chan loves it. In the comic, an Eschew Ball appears in Sonichu 0, and Chris claimed that Sonichu and Rosachu can be stored in them in the plot of his Family Guy episode. Then I break out my 2 Eschew Balls, toss them, and release Sonichu and Rosachu for more greetings. He also mentioned them in his phone call with Alec Benson Leary, the guy who made Asperchu. The Eschew Balls are often confused with the Sonichu Balls, which hold some relevance to the plot, have a completely different function, and are colored differently. Eschew Balls are yellow and light blue. Sonichu Balls have a solid color and are basically the Chaos Emeralds, and that's why they would be called Chaotic Crystals later. As the electric hedgehog Pokemon act more like humans than Pokemon, it is not surprising that the Eschew Balls do not feature in Sonichu. Oddly enough, Blaze Bob Sonichu and Chloe Rosechu were kept in ordinary Pokeballs. The one time Chris Chan could have practically used something from his ideas and he chose not to. Total Chris Chan move. In real life, Chris slapped together a replica of the Eschew Ball using a Pokeball from Burger King and topped it with Crayola Model Magic. Burger King, check. Crayola Model Magic, check. Total Chris Chan move. Although he later lost a piece from it. That is also a Chris Chan move. He fashioned a new one in November 2017. He also claims to have drawn an Eschew Ball on the back of his Sonichu medallion. This is probably what the blue blob to the right of his signature was, and I always wondered what was up with that, so I'm glad I got an answer. In 2018, Chris claimed to have received a physical Eschew Ball from Quickville and showed it to Count Dankula. That's after the whole merge shit. In 2019, Chris bought a Pokeball Plus for $47 and painted to resemble an Eschew Ball. Chris then tweeted pictures showing that he bought 5 more Pokeball Pluses so he could have a full team of 6 Pokemon on his belt and reap in more in-game rewards. Chris then justified his purchase by saying he bought them pre-owned, and a fan gave him the money, which still doesn't justify anything, and it's still a waste of money. Money that he could have used for bills or food. Gallery, we see Chris Chan dressed as Chris Chan from the comic books holding an Eschew Ball. We see his medallion with the fucked up squiggle on the back. We see drawings from the comics. We see a Lego Eschew Ball Chris made. We see a Pokemon card, a Yu-Gi-Oh card, some video game skins, some real-life replicas, and finally we see that Chris gave away one of his expensive Pokeballs at BronyCon to a troll, or as he he calls it a gal pal. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we are going to be reading yet again another Chris Chan article, but today we're not going to be talking about Chris directly. Instead, we are going to be talking about something within the world of Sonichu. Today we are going to be talking about an item from Sonichu. That item is Sonikite. Now, I know it's a weird sounding name, and I'll explain why it sounds so weird in a minute. Let's get into this quote though. After I got my Mega Stone, I thought about attaching it to my medallion, but when the stone touched the metal, it merged in it. Now, for a long while, mine is more unique than ever. The Chris Chan Sonikite. The Chris Chan Sonikite sure left an impression, smack dab in the middle of it. So that means that his medallion basically got a power boost in the middle of it. That old Cherokee magic. Ha-cha. Very offensive, Chris. And right here we can see it. There is a collage of Sonikites. Each one looks unique compared to who's holding it. And I guess this is going to be the new MacGuffins for the future Sonichu stories. A Sonikite is a special item introduced in the Sonichu 11. It is ripped straight from Pokemon's Megastone items. Megastone. In Pokemon, a Megastone is an item which enables a Pokemon to temporarily evolve into an upgraded form. And don't think that Chris is going to get too creative with that. Hardly anyone's actually going to get a new form. The stone is set as an accessory which the Pokemon wears, which disappears during the evolution but reappears afterwards. The name convention for each stone is the Pokemon name followed by "ite," and that's why it has such a weird name. It is Sonikite. Sonikite? Sonikite? I don't know. Say it either way you want to. It doesn't fucking exist. I'm going with Sonikite. But for the most part, they're not actually going to be getting new forms, and I'm going to explain that as we read this next part. In the comic, the energy of the Sonichu balls, renamed the Chaotic Crystals, depart from the now female Chris Chan Sonichu and sink into Sonichu's energies under the moonlight. And the moonlight is apparently important to Sonichu magic or whatever. They then shatter into millions of fragments. So the Sonichu balls broke into these new tinier crystals. So it's like they're tinier versions of the Chaos Emeralds. That's a very weird concept. The Sonikite. These are Mega Stones which allow the Electric Hedgehog Pokemon to Mega Evolve or just do the same evolutions you had before. Comic Chris's stone is called the Chris Chan Sonikite. Sonichu and Rosichu picked up Sonikites at their houses, Mega Evolving into Ultra Sonichu and the Incredible Lioness respectively. Now, Ultra Sonichu is the form that Sonichu got when he had the Sonichu balls. So he didn't actually get a new form. That's literally just recycling his old super form. And the Incredible Lioness is the form that Rosichu would take if she got really angry, and she only took the form once to beat the crap out of one of Chris's trolls. The effects only last for a short time, and the Sonikites need time to recharge between uses, so Chris is trying to add balance to his insane world. The Sonichu store their Sonikites in their socks. Why in their socks? Can't it just absorb into their arms like the crystals did? While the Rosichus use berets, hair clips. Why? Why do you have to do that? Is that referencing the Pokemon stuff? Do girls do that in Pokemon? To keep them in their fur. Apparently they will be used as a last resort. So that takes yet again more tension away from Sonichu now, because instead of having to hunt down the Sonichu balls, everyone can have a Sonichu ball that instantly allows you to go super whenever. So now if there was any tension in Sonichu, it's now gone, because anyone can go super at any time. Fuck you, Logic. That's just how we're doing it now. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today I figured we'd go back and do something classic. That being that we'd return to the Quickie. Today we are going to be reading a very old Quickie article, that being about the Ancient Prophecy. The Ancient Prophecy, pronounced Ancient, of the Cherokean clan is one of the central plot points of the entire Sonichu series, often being cited to explain many fantastical developments in the story. And if you look next to us, you can see the Ancient Prophecy seen on a wall. And it is a bunch of fucking scribbles. I get that it's supposed to look like ancient Egyptian artifacts, but that's even more stupid considering that it's supposed to be Cherokee in nature, and the fact that the Cherokean king dresses like an ancient Greek warrior doesn't help. It's a bunch of fucking shit. Chris Chan knows nothing about any culture, especially the Cherokee culture. Primarily, the prophecy explains why Chris and several other human beings in the comic can transform into furries. While the prophecy originally only concerned Chris, Sarah, and Wes's relationship, as the series progressed, all non-Chris details were essentially ignored or forgotten. The prophecy is also important because it renders Sonichu, the supposed main character of the comic, even more pointless, firmly establishing him simply as the electric creature, which creature is one of my favorite words, whose only purpose is to help unlock Chris Chan's superpowers for himself. Well, more superpowers, as he was already capable of using satanic voodoo powers. Long thought to be a typo, it consistently has eventually led to the realization that it is probably meant to be a Pikachu pun. Why or how the Cherokee would make a pun of the English word ancient and the Japanese word chew, an onomatopoeia for squeak, is unclear. The prophecy. Original prophecy, Chris Chan, Wes, and Sarah, destined trio. The original prophecy was brought to light when Sonichu happened upon the Destiny Cave, prompting the old man dwelling there to remark that Sonichu was the creature of the prophecy, learning that it was his destiny to enter the cave, the Destiny Cave, and learn of the prophecy. Chris accompanied Sonichu back to the cave, where he learned that Sonichu had inadvertently set off the events, releasing Count Graduan, an evil spirit locked away for centuries by the Cherokee and Wasabi clans, which those are Native American clans apparently. The prophecy, according to the Keeper of the Destiny Cave, is as follows. It was prophesied by ancient masters that the reincarnation of our leader will take the pin in hand to combine a mouse and hedgehog and give birth to the electric creature. Then the leader will place his handmade medallion on the pedestal and release the powers that were his. And yes, this does require him already knowing about this and already making a Sonichu medallion ahead of time. That was also in the prophecy, so Chris Chan was always going to be a loser. It was predestined. As well as his ladies and rivals' powers. The powers will transform you into Power Rangers. Into electric creatures with variable powers of good, bad, and peace. I don't know what powers of bad are, but okay. Also, an evil will strike the day the original electric creature finds the cave. Only released powers can defeat the evil. Yes, that's right. The act of Chris Chan and Sonichu showing up at the cave to hear about the prophecy in the first place is what allows the evil to escape. If they had just sealed up the damn cave, there wouldn't have been any problem. But that would have also meant that Chris wouldn't be able to gain the ability to turn into a furry. And we can't have that. Recognizing that the ancient evil could only be defeated by the powers at his command, Chris fulfilled his part of the prophecy by placing his Sonichu medallion on the pedestal, allowing the old man to say the incantation that would activate the medallion, as well as the fire shock pendant, one of the most useless artifacts in all of Sonichu, and the lightning bracelets, actually the most useless fucking power-up or artifact in all of Sonichu. These three totems would now give their rightful bearers the power to become electric hedgehogs like Sonichu, making Sonichu and friends pointless. The reincarnation of the Cherokean king, Christian, could now become Chris Chan Sonichu, which he tried to pretend like was a secret identity at the beginning, but it's so stupid because Chris Chan is literally in the name. The reincarnation of his queen, Sarah Hammer, or Surhama, which, that went very far. Yeah, she definitely became his wife, received the lightning bracelets, and became Surhama Rosachu, the leader of the Wasabi clan, who had been the Cherokean leader's romantic rival, was now Chris Chan's rival, Wes Isley, a guy that actually existed, along with Sarah Hammer, someone who also actually existed. And so he accepted the Fire Shock pendant and became Wesley Sonichu. Initially, the three prophesized electric creatures were unaware of another human identities until Wes Isley attacked Christian out of spite. 4 issues both in real life and their mutual interest in Sarah Hammer's affections and fictitious ancient past, the ownership of the Cherokean crown. Okay, earlier I said that the other thing was the most pointless artifact. The Cherokean crown is the most pointless artifact because it only appears once. The prophecy would go on to accurately describe how Sir Hama would have to bring peace to Wesley and Christian so they could present a united front against Graduan. This prophecy is bullshit because those two didn't show up for the final fight against Graduan at all. It should be noted that they never actually did stop Graduan at all. Exactly. The 3 of them teamed up temporarily to defeat a stone golem under Graduan's command, whilst Graduan himself left with Mary Lee Walsh to start running the private villa of corrupted citizens, which, by the way, Christian had a chance to stop him and said there was no point because they were destined to fight again. So it's all Christian's fault. Sarah ran off with William Spicer and got married, while Wes actually ended up joining Graduan's evil organization. Though there is no explanation of his reasons for the defection to the enemy at all, besides the fact that he's evil. Both of these things came to pass because Sarah got married in real life and Chris developed an interest in the new unfortunate girl, and since Sarah being out of the picture left Wes obsolete, he was simply made into a generic villain, and then there was another one made to replace him. He basically made Giovanni's son Natsirk the new Wesley, and he gets a fucking Sonichu form just like him, so Wesley gets straight up replaced. Thus, in spite of the prophecy, Chris is left alone to fight Graduan and an army of its followers, essentially making the other 2 completely useless and the prophecy a failure. Extended prophecy, Crystal, the dream sibling. When Chris was ambushed by the WM manager at McDeeville in the region of Malwart, yes, these are real things that exist. I've made them in Minecraft, sadly. He received another vision of his Cherokean ancestor, advising him to combine the powers of Christian Sonichu with the Heart Torch, which I did a video on that, go check it out. He constructed from pixel blocks. In this way, he could be able to summon his dream sibling who could assist him in battle. Following his ancestor's instructions, Christian used the Heart Torch glow to manifest his identical twin sister, which is actually more like a clone. Yet again, I mentioned that in the video about it. Crystal, and the Rosachu medallion she could use to become Crystalina Rosachu. Joining forces with Christian Pure, they defeated the WM manager and made the city safe again, which, by the way, she is also a pointless character because she is Sailor Moon inspired and she's a woman, and she almost becomes completely useless when Megan is around, and she is a redundant character altogether. Fine print of the prophecy, Reldnock, the ultimate dark being. When the original metal is submerged in darkness, the dark metal will appear, and he whose name is reversed shall transform into the ultimate dark being. And apparently the ultimate dark being has an arm that is completely twisted backwards. This additional detail in the prophecy, which was retconned and later went unnoticed by Christian, much to his dismay, when he learned that the mishap in Graduan's dark mirror hole allowed Natsirk Giovanni to transform into Reldnock Natsu Natsirk, which brilliant name there. One of his deadliest enemies. He doesn't have a lot of enemies. Once again, this is an example of the prophecy fucking over more people than it helped. Since Reldnock really was the ultimate dark being, then that logically makes him an even bigger threat than Graduan, who the prophecy was made to defeat in the first place. Also note that the prophecy does not actually guarantee that Reldnock will be defeated at all, even though he eventually was in Sonichu 10. It's only thanks to the narrative magic that Chris ever actually managed to defeat all the numerous enemies that the prophecy actually created, meaning the prophecy was the real villain after all. That wouldn't have terrorized the world in the first place if he had just left well enough alone. Meaning he should have just destroyed that fucking cave from the beginning. Alternate timeline, make it. Also, the original prophecy was spoken aloud to Chris by the keeper of the Destiny Cave. How could there be fine print at all? Exactly. I mean, it was written on the wall, but whatever. When it was spoken and not written on paper is never explained. It was written on the wall. The only sensible conclusion is that the keeper either mumbled that part under his breath or just decided to not tell Christian that part at all. How Relnock actually knows about that detail or the prophecy either is also a complete mystery. Completely unexplained part of the prophecy. Some brown guy. Best way to fucking describe it. And yes, that's fucking Liquid Chris's Sonichu form. He actually did appear in the comic. Enter a Chandler. He's a Sonichu character based off of Liquid Chris who appears in Sonichu 9. He works for the CWCki and fought in the Battle of Quickville. He showed up in Electric Hedgehog form for about 2 pages and was curb stomped by Sonichu in a matter of minutes. When he was defeated, he then suddenly transformed into a human, much like Chris, or the other transforming Sonichus do upon being defeated. Then, just as Sonichu calls an ambulance to have him taken to the hospital, he is grabbed by tentacles of a gang of devil trolls and carried off to safety. Apparently, the devil trolls are tiny goblin-like demon entities, some of which can fly, and the paramedics speculated that he was in alliance with them. So, who is this guy? Why does he have these powers? Why is he working for the CWCki? Why is he allied with devil trolls? What is his story? What is his motive? How does he factor into the prophecy? Is he human? Is he the devil? Why does he care about stealing Christian's identity? Why did he try to fight Sonichu? None of these questions are answered. Are you surprised? And, he had a medallion, a fucking fake medallion made of paper, and that's why Sonichu was able to defeat him so easily. So apparently someone was trying to forge medallions, and the medallions, the fake ones, would still give you the Sonichu powers. So what Christian said before about the ancient writing on the back, it was probably bullshit. And all you have to do is make a fucking medallion, you get superpowers. That's what it seems like anyway. The prophecy becomes even more relevant. In Sonichu 10, Christian's medallion is taken away from him by Beal, which is basically the devil, mirroring the real-life interception of the medallion by trolls. He then learns that the true power comes from friendship. Nah, I'm just kidding. Not the medallion, but from his Amnifest ring. Yeah, friendship would never be the true power with Christian, because he doesn't have any friends. The ring is, of course, never mentioned in the prophecy, and indeed, it is specified that he requires the medallion, the handmade medallion. The reader is expected to digest this information without any cognitive dissonance. And I want to say this, it is said now that he can transfer the magic from artifact to artifact. So the magic from the medallion was transferred to the ring and can also be transferred to other medallions. So really it's just the magic and not even the artifact. And that was everything on the Ancient Prophecy. Overall, the Ancient Prophecy was completely pointless and just let evil into the world. It created more villains than it did heroes, and it pretty much fucked over everything. It's very vague and non-descriptive, and it really is just whatever fucking Christian needs it to be for that story. But no one should be shocked. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we're going to be looking at another quickie article. Today's quickie article, we will be looking over Rule Quick. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of Christian's fictional country Quickville. Well, this is his other fictional country. Rule Quick, pronounced as Rule Quick, is Christian's idiotic version of Hyrule, a fictional country depicted in the Legend of Zelda game series. And we can see Rule Quick right here. It is a square house-looking castle with a sand-filled yard with rocks everywhere and a cave. Very great world building. Ignoring for a moment the hijacking of another setting, even the very name given to the setting is an example of Christian's arrogance, and also his complete lack of creativity. Rather than coming up with an original name, he simply opted to slap his initials on it. Instead of Hyrule, it's Rule Quick. Much in the same way he did with the primary setting. It should also be noted that the name of this setting is about as pleasing to the ear as the screams of burning children. If Chris were capable of even the slightest degree of phonetic savvy, he may have opted to use a more pleasing yet no less self-gratifying high-functioning... Fuck you. You're funny. Okay, I get it. Funny. Sonichu refers to the kingdom as Rule Quick of England, meaning that apparently the kingdom has ties to England, despite presumably existing in Quickville. And also, to be more confusing, it's like, how is it part of England when it's its own country? I mean, I guess Ireland would have something to say about that. This could just be Chris connecting Hyrule to England, since they both have monarchs. But to this day, no one has a clue what the hell Sonichu was talking about, and just what exactly the geographical situation Rule Quick is. Yeah, because Sonichu can just go anywhere, so he could have just went to the next town over, or he could have went to the next country over. Rule Quick is ruled by a childless king and queen who adopted Zelina when she hatched as a Rosie in their court, and made her their successor, which doesn't sound like a problem at all. She grew up to become Zelina Rosachu, a ripoff of Amy Rose Raichu and Princess Zelda, and Morgana Macabre. Meanwhile, a Sani hatched in Rule Quick Forest after being trained by a rogue master swordsman, a ripoff of Link, and an owl named King Alistair, a ripoff of... I can't fucking pronounce that. I'm uncultured. He evolved into Darkbind Sonichu, a ripoff of Sonic the Hedgehog, Pikachu, Link, and Darkwing Duck. Yes, we have gone this fucking convoluted where there are this many things ripping off this many things to make two characters that don't fucking matter to the plot. I hope you enjoy this fucking quickie reading. Clawdorf, a ripoff of Ganondorf, also lives in Rule Quick and has placed an eternal sleep over Princess Zelina until Ultra Sonichu woke her. And yes, the whole fucking point of the sleep is that he needed the Sonichu balls to wake her up. And the Sonichu balls were introduced as a part of the Rule Quick shit, but then she gets woken up by a completely different means, meaning that he never needed the Sonichu balls to begin with. So all of Rule Quick, all of this fucking side tangent is pointless. It's all pointless. Aside from being the initial location of the first two Sonichu balls, Rule Quick serves absolutely no importance to the storyline whatsoever. Its backstory / subplot, first opened in Sonichu 6, remained unaddressed until Sonichu 10, when Ultra Sonichu descended on Zelina in a cloud of glory and woke her from her coma in his Deus Ex Machina power. Chris did this in response to wide accusations by his fan that the subplot was left hanging. But rather than wrap up the useless stump, he chose to leave it open by awakening Clawdorf. And I don't think Clawdorf was ever dealt with. So all that whole thing was useless. It was useless, the Sonichu. It was pointless. All the characters it introduced sucked. And Rule Quick isn't even fucking needed. That was everything you need to know about Rule Quick and all of its fucking stupid shit. It is just a pointless side tangent and all of fucking Sonichu. Hey guys, Dylan here, and today we are doing a quickie discussion. Today's quickie discussion is on Chris Chan and Planet Dolan. Planet Dolan is a YouTube top 10 channel that Chris has gained an interest in. It was originally known as Danger Dolan, and funny enough, I've been watching Danger Dolan for years. I started watching them like back in 2014. I really enjoyed this channel, and I remember back when they transitioned from Danger to Planet Dolan. And after the Planet Dolan shit, I quit watching them. They got really clickbaity and do like more Reddit stories than anything now, so I stopped watching it, but it used to be a good channel. But after amassing several new members, and with its growing popularity due to the success of spin-off animation channel called Planet Dolan, the main channel was renamed as such, while the animation channel was changed to Super Planet Dolan. Dolan. Chris's fascination seems to be especially related to becoming infatuated with one of the animators slash voice actors, Doopy Doover, and that's a whole different situation, and I'm gonna cover that one day in the future. Interactions with staff. Ever since Chris discovered the channel in August 2016, he started to contact some of the staff, such as Doopy Doover, Vim Homeless, and Lady Bot 3 the next year. Doopy has since cut contact with Chris because he is a fucking weirdo. Hellbent has commented on Chris Chan related videos on YouTube and even follows at least one of Michael Hurt's accounts on Twitter. Gurgak, I'm gonna say Gurgak, I'm probably wrong, but Gurgak, in a Kiwi Farms post, has said he believes most of Planet Dolan members are aware of Chris Chan's past and just brush it off, though his interactions with Doopy have made a few of them uncomfortable. Doopy Do-Over. Due to his thirst for China, Chris took an interest in Doopy as a potential sweetheart. Predictably, this caused a lot of problems for the latter, who had initially decided to ignore the swarm of weens following Chris on Twitter and treat him like any regular customer, which you can't do. You can't do that. If you try to treat Chris like a human and try to do business with him, you will be harassed. Chris will fuck you over. Just don't give Chris money. Don't give Chris anything. Just avoid Chris at all costs. That's something even I had to learn the hard way. Unfortunately for her, this kindness was misinterpreted by Chris as a signal of romantic interest. Hashtag harass quick directly. And there's a whole article for that too, which I'll cover later. Due to his misinterpretation of the post made by Doopy, clearly telling Chris to stop stalking her, he came to the false conclusion that Doopy was cutting contact with him due to the troll's fault, which is the same thing he did with Megan and a lot of other people, assuming that it was because of the trolls and not his own incompetency. Instead of his own creepy messages, which it was, and I can't find those creepy messages, he has also assumed that they were somehow after the entire Planet Dolan crew, and not just Doopy. And this is the Twitter post he made, telling people, and if you cannot say it to me ever, then never type it up outside your private forums ever. Do you understand me? And the post has written all over it, hashtag don't harass me, and harass Chris directly. The Lady of Cosmo, and she has her own article too, which we might look at later. On the 25th of August 2017, Chris got into a Twitter brawl with Lady of the Cosmo, a comic artist with close ties to many of the channel members, including Doopy, which led to him getting blocked shortly after, deciding to stop following her. Notably, Chris encountered with the lady and her fans resulted in some surprisingly potent A-logging being thrown at Chris, ending with Lady joining the Kiwi Farms to clarify what happened. And now this is Gurgak, which I hope I'm saying that name right. On August 29th, I'm gonna assume of that year, Planet Dolan member Gurgak started a thread on Kiwi Farms, noting that he had been following Chris since 2008, posting several screen caps of Chris messaging him, including where Chris asked him to share his Twitter poll concerning the mini internet trolls. Gurgak decided to vote against Chris in that poll. And let's pull up these messages. Let's see what these are. I'm gonna zoom out for a second. Hey Gurgak, I got a notification about your Twitter value. Good for you. I took a look and mine is over 5k. Those are fucking bullshit. You will always be better than me, Christine. Hey, would you do me a favor? Please retweet. Oh, okay, so it's literally just nonsense. This is stupid. And then he says his name Jeff. Ha ha ha, funny. Okay, I think we're done. I think you get the point of that. Jeff, please help me. Sincere compassion. Yeah, it's exactly what the article summed up. That wasn't needed. In the comic, the cast of Planet Dolan was expected to appear in the upcoming Sonichu 12-9 because Chris doesn't like the number 13. Although it's currently unknown how much of his interactions with Doopy and Lady of Cosmo, as well as him being blocked by various other channel affiliates, will affect these plans. Chris stated that in August 2017 that Nightstar, his imaginary pony Sona, would be featured in the issue, and followed up on top of this by replacing the Sonichu /Dolan comic cover with one of Nightstar. And I think think that whole thing was minimized. I think Planet Dolan still does appear, it's just not as much as it was going to be before. And that was Planet Dolan. Shockingly, Chris ended this like he ends everything, by stalking women involved and being a creep until everyone disowned him. So if you guys like this video, hit the like button. If you guys really like it, share it. And if you want to see more, and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and bye.